Welcome to our podcast. My name is Samantha.
My name is Miamarie.
My name is Emily.
My name's Andrew. My name is Jesus.
My name's Jeremiah.
And this is Voices for the Voiceless.
Every year, thousands of people become victims of human trafficking. Despite living in a country built on freedom and equality, this crime continues to exist in the shadows. So, how did we get here? Today, we're talking about the historical context of sex trafficking and why it remains an important issue in society.
Before we begin, it's important to understand what sex trafficking actually is. Sex trafficking is a form of human trafficking. Many people think it's forced, manipulated, or coerced into commercial sexual exploitation. Many people think it's also just a modern problem, but its roots go way further.
That's right. Historical evidence show that sexual exploitation exists in ancient civilizations like Egypt, Greece, and Rome, as well as throughout the medieval Europe and Asia.
And what's interesting is that societies changed. Trafficking didn't disappear. Instead, it adapted to a new circumstance and became much more hidden from the public view.
So even though it may look different today than it did centuries ago, the exploitation itself has continued.
Exactly. Today, traffickers often use social media, technology, and manipulation to target vulnerable individuals. This can also make crime much harder to detect and prevent.
When you think about it, that shows how sex trafficking involves with society. As technology changes, traffickers find new ways to take advantage of people.
That's one reason sex trafficking is also considered a cultural phenomenon. It affects people around the world and reflects larger issues we have as a society, like poverty, inequality, lack of opportunity, and the abuse of power.
Those issues don't just affect one country. They can increase vulnerability and make it easier for traffickers to exploit people.
In the United States, these issues impact communities nationwide. It has led to stronger laws, public awareness campaigns, and support programs for survivors.
Even with these efforts, though sex trafficking remains a serious problem, many cases still go unreported, which makes it difficult to know the full extent of the issue.
It also challenges core American values such as freedom, inequality. Trafficking continues to exist. It raises an important question about how well society protects vulnerable people.
And the effects can be really devastating. Survivors often experience long-term emotional, physical, and psychological trauma that can last for a really long time.
Communities are affected as well. Governments and organizations spend significant resources on prevention, law enforcement, and survivor support services.
So, while sex trafficking is often discussed as a crime, it's honestly really so much more than that.
It's a social issue as well that reveals deeper problems within our society and reminds us why education and awareness and prevention on sex trafficking is so important.
We hope this discussion helped provide some historical context and a better understanding of why sex trafficking continues to be an important issue today.
Now that we talked about the history of sex trafficking, one high profile example that brought national attention to this issue is the case of R. Kelly. He was a successful singer, songwriter, and producer whose career spanned decades. However, allegations of abuse followed him for years before he was eventually held accountable in court.
Wait, R. Kelly? You mean like the guy who made I Believe I Could Fly?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Wait, I think I heard about that because didn't in like 2022, like R. Kelly was sentenced to like decades in prison after being convicted on federal charges that were like related to sex trafficking and other crimes.
yeah, it's really horrible.
Yeah, yeah. No, I remember watching it on TV because like the prosecutors argued that he used fame, wealth, and influence to recruit, manipulate, and control victims. The case showed how power and celebrity status can sometimes allow abuse to continue for years.
It's really shocking that it wasn't like that long ago because this case took well the trial took place back in 2021 to and 2023. The crimes and investigations involved several locations across the United States, including Chicago, New York City, Florida, and Texas. Although the abuse occurred over many years, the major trials took place.
Damn, that's a lot of places. I ain't gonna lie. Wait. So the prosecutors argued that R. Kelly's celebrity status gave him influence over others. Many victims were young and vulnerable. Like that was so weird of him. And he allegedly used promises, manipulation, intimidation, and fear to maintain control and avoid accountability.
Yeah, this case was really important because it was more than one person. It really highlighted how power can sometimes protect people from consequences.
Hmm.
It also showed how difficult it can be for victims to come forward, especially when the accused is wealthy, famous, and respected.
Mm, like, yeah, that's crazy. Like, the R. Kelly case had, like, a major impact on American culture itself. It sparked conversations about the abuse of power, accountability, and how societies responds to survivors. Many people began asking why victims are so often doubted and what changes are needed to be better to protect vulnerable individuals.
That's why the case really increased awareness because of sex trafficking and exploitation. Because many people think trafficking only happens through organizations, crimes, and international network. However, this case showed that exploitation can occur with communities and involve people who seem successful and trustworthy.
Damn, so you're telling me like my favorite like artist could be doing some bad stuff?
Yeah.
Holy. Well, and like altogether, like it also affected how Americans think about justice. I think some viewed the conviction as evidence that powerful people can actually be held accountable, and others question why it took so many years for action to be taken despite related repeated allegations.
This is why it connects to the bigger issue in America. The United States is founded on ideals such as freedom, equality, and justice.
Hmm.
Cases like this can challenge those ideals by showing that not everyone receives equal protection or equal access to justice.
Like, so the underlying issue is not only trafficking itself, but also the systems that allow to exploitation to continue. Unequal power, relationships, social pressures, and failures to listen to victims can all contribute to this problem in total.
This is why cases like this have effect on survivors that can be long-lasting trauma. Many experience emotional trauma, mental health challenges, and difficulties to rebuilding their lives. Communities are also affected by this because trafficking damages trust, safety, and social well being.
Hmm. And the fight against human trafficking continues today. Did you know that? Like,
I really didn't.
the government's law enforcement agencies and advocacy organizations work to prevent exploitation, support survivors, and prosecute offenders. However, the problem remains a significant challenge in the world.
Ultimately, the R. Kelly case so, shows Sharir as an example of how trafficking and exploitation can occur when power is abused. It reminds us of the importance of listening to survivors and ensuring that justice applies to everyone, regardless of their status or influence.
You said that right.
As awareness of human trafficking grew, governments around the world actually began creating laws to combat it. While trafficking has existed for centuries, many modern anti trafficking laws are recent. One of the most important international efforts came from the United Nations in about the early 2000s. The United Nations adopted the Palermo Protocol, an agreement designed to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in person, especially those of women and children. The protocol also provided one of the first internationally accepted definitions of human trafficking. They as well encouraged other countries in order to work together and fight it. In the United States, one of the most significant laws is actually the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. And if you're asking yourself, well, what is this? It's often also called the TVPA, which was passed as well in the 2000s. This law, again, if you're asking yourself, what does it do? It protects victims and prevents trafficking from occurring. The law has also established services to help survivors recover and rebuild their lives. So, since the TVP, it has been reauthorized and expanded several times. These updates have increased protections for victims, and it's an improved law for enforcement training. And it strengthens penalties for traffickers when they're caught trafficking. Today, trafficking offenses can result in lengthy prison sentences, like really lengthy. Especially when crimes involve minors or force with fraud. Many states have also passed their own anti-trafficking laws. These laws focus on identifying the victims. It provides resources and support for the victims. It may also include support groups. It requires training for teachers and healthcare workers and law enforcement officers so they can recognize the warning signs of trafficking and report suspected cases, which in my opinion, that's really good that teachers are being trained to identify this as well, as it also happens in children. Despite these legal advances, challenges remain. Human trafficking is really often difficult to detect because it can occur in hidden environments, such as private homes, businesses, even farms, and it can even go as far to being construction sites, or even closer than you think to online platforms. Victims may be afraid to seek help because of threats, fear of deportation, or concern for their family's safety. The attacker will attack their family and threaten them, is what they believe. Because of these challenges, many experts argue that the laws alone are not enough. Education and public awareness, international cooperation, and support for survivors are all necessary parts of combating human trafficking. Governments, nonprofit organizations, school, communities, they all continue working together to help identify the victims and prosecute these people causing such a big issue, the traffickers. And they work together to prevent future exploitation. They try their best to make sure it doesn't keep happening. These laws represent an important shift in how societies view human trafficking, not just as a problem. It affects people believe that it may affect only a certain group of people, but it's a global human rights issue that requires ongoing action and attention. Human trafficking is really a big deal and it's not hidden. Human trafficking can really just be anywhere. So, after the brief rundown of the laws of human trafficking, you may be asking yourself, how does it happen? How does it happen currently? Well, One reason human traffickers continue to be a problem today is that many traffickers have actually learned and adapted to modern technology. Instead of approaching people in person, they can now use social media platforms and messaging apps and online communities to find potential victims, which is really scary if you have children or even teenagers. Teenagers are all over social media. For example, many teenagers spend hours scrolling through apps such as Instagram and Snapchat, and right now, as most popular, TikTok. While these platforms are genuinely used for entertainment and communication within friends, traffickers can sometimes use them to contact vulnerable individuals. They create fake profiles and pretend to be someone around their age, which is pretty scary as they present themselves as successful influencers, talents, scouts, or maybe even a romantic interest to your child. A common tactic these traffickers use is grooming. Grooming occurs when someone slowly builds trust with another person over time. A trafficker might start by liking posts or sending friendly messages, giving compliments, or offering emotional support to your kid. At first, the relationship may seem harmless. You think it's something innocent. However, as trust develops, the trafficker may begin to asking for personal information in personal meetings or even private photos of your children. Another tactic involves fake opportunities. Someone may claim they can help a person become a model. Like when you're walking through the mall and someone stops you saying you have potential to be a model. That could be a technique traffickers use. In online places, they can promise a person money, fame, travels, or exciting experiences. In reality, these offers can be really dangerous and used to manipulate victims into really dangerous situations. Traffickers tend to target vulnerabilities. They often look for people who post about feeling lonely, having family problems, struggling financially, or wanting to escape difficult situations by identifying these challenges. Traffickers can make themselves appear trustworthy and supportive. But this doesn't mean that people should be scared to use social media. Millions of people use apps safely, like TikTok, every day. However, understanding these tactics can help people recognize the warning signs and protect themselves online. Being cautious about who you communicate, who your child is communicating with, and talking to, who you talk to, is really important. Be cautious with who you communicate, who you share personal information, and avoid just talking about sensitive personal information. Talk to trusted adults, as suspicious interactions could be a trafficker. As technology continues to evolve, so do the methods that traffickers use. Learning about these tactics is one way. Communities can help prevent exploitation and keep young people safe both online and offline.
Before we continue with today's episode, we'd like to thank our sponsor, BetterHelp, for supporting this podcast.
The topics we discuss on the show can be difficult to hear. They remind us of the challenges that many people face every day. And if you're going through a hard time right now, we want you to know that your story isn't over and your circumstances do not define your future.
Healing isn't always easy and it doesn't happen overnight, but every step forward, no matter how small, matters. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it can be one of the most bravest decisions a person makes.
BetterHelp is an online therapy platform that connects people with licensed therapists, making professional support more accessible and convenient. Having someone to listen, guide, and support you can make a meaningful difference when life feels overwhelming.
No matter where you are in your journey, remember that growth isn't possible. People overcome obstacles every day, find their voices, and create brighter futures for themselves and those around them.
If you're interested in learning more about therapy and mental health support, visit betterhelp.com for more information.
Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode and supporting conversations that encourage awareness, healing, and hope.
And to anyone listening who may be struggling, keep going. There are people who care and people who will listen, and reasons to believe that better days can be ahead.
Now let's return to today's episode.
We reach our conclusion segment. People are trying to stop this from happening within the United States and around the world. This issue, through many investigations, are in progress and started. Sadly, there's still no solution to this issue. Despite multiple busts, the issue is international and appears to still be at large for the rest of humanity.
But we as a society can only ask one thing from people. That one thing, simply put, is what can audiences do differently in their lives to be more aware of the many rings and operations of sex trafficking, whether in the United States or outside of the United States. Because we've turned a holy marital practice into an industry and a crime ring. But crime knows no age. Unless there's a buyer, there's going to be a seller wanting to profit off it.
Something we all want you to walk away with after the podcast and setting down your headphones is to begin realizing that sex trafficking, with most cases, is horribly shoved under the rug, occurs around us, and is at large, which shows how human evolution has intoxicated human society.
But we can't just blame human evolution. Our actions make us responsible for what we do and our reputation. We choose to commit these acts. Our our lust for money makes us weak, clouds our minds, and we begin only worshiping the prophet.
In most cases, this often occurs because of many negative factors. It could be poverty, it could be abuse within family, or even just a bad social circle.
But despite all that, why should we all for our circumstances that, despite our prosperous cities and economies, are things that we can't control?
We can only hope that we all are shown mercy for our sins. We thank our sponsors, our listeners for tuning in with us. Until next time, good night, everyone, and have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you for joining us on Voices of the Voiceless. Today we explored the harsh reality of human trafficking, both its history and the ways it continues to impact lives and the lives of those around us, and in general, everyone. Human trafficking is often hidden in plain sight. Making awareness is one of the most powerful tools we have to fight it. To fight it, we have to learn the signs, educate others, but most importantly, support the survivors of human trafficking. We can help bring attention to those whose voices have been silenced. And we encourage you to continue this conversation beyond the podcast. Share what you've learned, stay informed, and remember that the real change starts with us and the awareness and action. Thank you for listening to Voices of the Voiceless. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep using your voice to stand up for those who cannot always speak for themselves.